بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين رحمة للعالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله روحي وأرواح العالمين لك الفداء يا غريب يا مظلوم يا شهيد يرض كربلاء ثم السلام عليكم يا أهل الأزهر الحسين والبدون جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. عليكم السلام. أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه الحكيم وهو أصدق الصادقين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لقد كان في قصصهم عبرة لأولي الألباب ما كان حديثا يفترى ولكن تصديق الذي بين يديه وتفصيل كل شيء وهدى ورحمة لقوم يؤمنون. صلوات الله. In the beautiful surah of Yusuf alayhi salam, the Quran, by the way, this is one of the most complete chapter in the stories that have been reported in the Quran itself. Most of the qasas, most of the stories are just brought in for the direct reference at a given time. So you have part of the story of Moses, part of the story of Jesus, all of these, Ibrahim alayhi salam, all of them being mentioned as part of edification, trying to teach people what they need to learn from these stories. But the case of Yusuf is very special because that complete story is what I would call a sacred program. When Pharaoh is mentioned, when all these rulers are mentioned, they are mentioned as part of the individuals or powers that rejected Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's authority. And therefore they have no future. As the Quran says, يَكْفُرُونَ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ, they are the ones who rejected the science of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What Allah is trying to teach you and me is that the narratives that we are giving you are full of riddles and mysteries that you would need to read it and understand it. We will reach our point of discussion during these few days that we are together. And today I see Aina Hadiani is always here, and Khanum is here. So we are very much at peace that he is with us. And I think that what we need to do is to understand the significance of how history unfolds itself and makes itself a kind of continuous ethical guidance. History is not repeated just for the sake of the storytelling. If you open the Hebrew Bible, it has stories in it. And those stories are given not only as part of the Exodus or Genesis or any other part of the human history, but they simply tell you what went on without having a deeper concern about calling the readers to reflect. The shortness of the Quranic stories are inviting us to reflect. And what reflect does is that it tries to tell us its moral consequences and the consequences that could be relevant to our life today. The issue of the memory is very important for the Quran because human beings have a tendency to forget. As I mentioned, forgetfulness is a kind of act that creates violence because you don't remember everything that happened in the past. You are being asked to remember and to bring up the past so that you learn and you draw lessons for the present and the future. The presentism that we are faced with. Most of us live in the present. And history takes a back seat unless you are willing to open the history time and again to get inspiration. Inspiration of the history can come when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invites us. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَفَكَّرُونَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَدَبَّرُونَ. If only you would remember what we are trying to tell you. It is not without reason that Imam Ali, in some of his khutbahs, is trying to tell us the way he and the Prophet ﷺ interacted. He says quite clearly, لما أنزل الله سبحانه قوله ألف لام ميم أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. Because history is a fitna. Things open up without you being participant in it, but it is going to move you according to your understanding of history. Imam Ali is trying to draw a picture of his interaction with the Prophet. The Prophet is a teacher, he is a student. It was at the time of Khadir. Imam Ali was only 34 years old. So you can see how many years has he passed with the Prophet's mentorship. And the way the ayat of the Quran is unfolding, it's amazing the way Imam Ali approaches it. He is, the ayat of the Quran is Alif Lam Mim, Ahasib al-Nas. Do people think that if they say we believe in, they will not be tested? Because we all claim that we believe. We all claim that we have the knowledge to acknowledge the greater authority of the Prophet and the authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there comes a time when we are tested, and if we are tested and if we fail the test, then we might go away from the science of God. At that time, there's a problem. So we ask this, Ya Rasulullah, What is this fitna about? علمت أن الفتنة لا تنزل بنا ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله بين أظهرنا. As long as the Prophet is with us, we are not worried about the testing, because he's there. He will guide us, he will tell us. But his worry is about the future. Ya Rasulullah, ما هذه الفتنة التي أخبرك الله تعالى بها فقال هذا. What is this fitna that the Quran is that you are talking about, which Allah says is going to come? Because he's not going to leave those who believe without any testing. يعني إن أمتي سيفتنون من بعد. My community will be tested after me. And the first test began as soon as the Prophet closed his eyes. That was a major test, because that was going to deal with one of the very important pillars of Islamic leadership. What kind of conception did the Prophet believe in when he mentions that kind of leadership that will come after him, and it will also be the source of testing, sifting, and cleansing the people? The leadership question became one of the most central issue in the wilaya of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with a specific goal, and that was to establish a government that was both morally and religiously, morally and spiritually, temporally and spiritually connected, integrated. Human beings had to think that not only am I going to follow the rules and the laws and the regulations, but also it's going to impact upon my spiritual development. What the Prophet ﷺ is introducing, and I would say reintroducing the Imamah of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, that Ibrahim alayhi salam came not only as Imam of the community, he came as the Imam of the people. Inni jailuka linnasi imama. I made you an Imam of the people. That means there will be many communities living under that kind of, umbrella. And Ibrahim is going to lead them. He's going to establish what Allah wants him to establish. What is it that God wants to establish? The sentence, I've already discussed part of it. I just want to say, La yanalu ahad al-zalimin. Because Hazrat Ibrahim was very much concerned about his son, about the next generation. What will happen after I go? I want to make sure that I have the right course of action defined for them. See what the leaders do. It's therefore very interesting to note that when we read the histories written from an ideological point of view, they keep on telling us that the Prophet did not, he left the whole thing to the community. Your community, you do it. No, I think from the very beginning, he brought the example of Hazrat Ibrahim by saying that, look, I'm going to be the one to appoint for you the one who can take my place when I'm gone. It's not the democratic system or republican system that we are talking about. Actually, they have written about it. And the reason was very clear that the Prophet ﷺ saw the problems when you separate morality from spirituality. When you make politics without moralizing it. Because politics needs moral force, ethical force to become implemented. Look at the way the modern world is struggling about it. There is no system in the world today that can say we are ideally moral system and we follow the morality of even human reason. Even human reason is not able to capture what the Quran is trying to say, that La yanalu ahad al-zalimin, my promise does not include those who are unjust. Authority will go to the people who act justly. And you try to do it with any means, with the army, with the force, with the power, but nothing comes close to what Hazrat Ibrahim is being promised. I'll make an imam of the people, but remember, your main strength is going to be your justice. Had it not been that, why would there be a problem between Muawiyah and Imam Ali? Muawiyah, as a shrewd politician, was someone who has been actually idolized by the modern Arab authors. Whenever they write about the ideal government, they mention Muawiyah. I heard the professors in University of Jordan talking about it, that this is what, we have created. We have Muawiyah as the paradigm. Yes, Muawiyah as a paradigm. What kind of government did he establish? Was he bound by any moral principles? Not at all. Muhammad several times mentioned that this is the government that went around, poisoned the opposition, killed them, executed them, imprisoned them. In other words, nobody had a right to object to their performance. Government needs to be corrected. Governance is a total possibility and responsibility of the people. Imam Ali is asking the Prophet ﷺ, what kind of government, what kind of fitna will there be in the future? I just want to touch on this and move on. فقلت يا رسول الله أوليس قد قلت لي يوم أحد حيث استشهد من المسلمين. Did you tell me on the day of Ahad when I said, I wish I was among the dead, I was among those who are martyred? The Prophet said, Ali, it's going to come after you. Martyrdom is going to come after you. Don't worry about that. You will be sacrificing your life. Not now. So there's something more to be done. And the more to be done is what I find the Quran is laying down in front of us. The Quran is saying quite clearly, and it's asking all of us, أَفَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَتَكُونَ لَهُمْ قلوب يعقلون بها أو آذان يسمعون بها فإنها لا تعمى الأبصار لكن تعمى القلوب التي في الصدور. Imam Ali is worried about the community, the Prophet is worried about it, and the Quran is adamantly asking people, go and travel in the world. You become the examiner of the civilizations. You don't fall into this blind acceptance of the civilization, thinking that they have all the power. Look at the democratic system, look at their government, look at their everything. And you and I know where they are failing. Had it been justly established, at least there will be good signs of, seeing the progress being done. And today, you and I know what, if you open any books, you will see the difference. You will see the tragedy of making the reason as the most powerful tool and yet unable to provide the guidance. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that go and travel. Haven't you traveled in order for you to find out about the civilizations? about what has happened, how people have been guided because they were wide awake, and those who were not awake had suffered. Whenever the hearts are closed, human beings will stop progressing. I mentioned that forgetfulness is also a violence. If we try to forget some part of the history because we are very uncomfortable about it, then it creates a problem for us. And I come to the important point that Imam Ali again is warning us. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When you progress spiritually and morally, you are given a sight that nobody else has it. We call it the brilliance of the spirituality. Your brilliant mind is able to see things. You see sometimes the elderly in the community or elderly in the family. When they speak, when they tell us about something that we never thought. Or we thought it might never happen. And yet it comes and knocks at your door. There are so many figures I can mention in the modern times who are spiritually so powerful. There was this Ayatollah Behjat, for example, who had the vision that nobody else had. He was extraordinary spiritual person. That when you walked, you felt as if, there was a spirit moving behind him. And he was able to say so many things that others would hesitate to say. Imam Ali is worried about the Muslim community. And I'm sure that this worry of Imam Ali is actually descending upon Karbala. Karbala is a vision that will awaken you. The more you try to forget Karbala, the more violence you're going to do. I'm being very clear. The more you try to forget Karbala, the more violence you will do. Because Karbala is what Imam Ali is saying in the khutbah here. What did he say? A visionary. Haven't you seen sometimes your teachers in the school? They're visionary. Sometimes they talk about things that you never thought this teacher would be able to tell you, but they do, because they're inner vision. Nobody talks about it. Today, you don't talk about emotions in ethics. Emotivism is an important issue. How am I going to sacrifice my life if I'm emotionally not connected with the goals of this place? Why would I come? Why would I speak to my community if I did not believe in the enormous capacity of this institution to benefit everyone? This is the vision. Now we are closely watching what is happening in the community. And here is Imam Ali watching carefully at the community and saying in front of everyone, Ayyuhan nas, O people, سيأتي عليكم زمان يقطع فيه الإسلام. There will come a time in the future when Islam will be empty of its contents. Are you hearing it? What Imam Ali is trying to say? There will come Islam, there will come a time in the life of this community, in the life of humanity, that Islam will be empty of its contents. He explains it. It will be empty of Islam. If you have a pot of water, if you drop all the water, what remains in the pot? Nothing. Imam is using the analogy saying Islam will be thrown out. And you think that, oh my God, Islam, this is the best time for Islam, for a Muslim. Imam Ali knows very well what time is going to come. It was not only Bani Umayyah coming to power, not only Bani Abbas coming to power, the future governments, how they will go away from the teaching of submission to the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The hardest point for all of us is to submit ourselves and surrender to the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's egotism. I think I am right. Everybody has this egotism, and the ego is doing the violence. It's telling us what to remember, what not to remember, what to participate in, what not to participate in. Look at the way today the world is against remembering Karbala. Do you know? Do we see internet? Do we see what people are writing about? When you write about it, you feel sad that these are the Muslims who have forgotten their own prophet. If they remembered the prophet, if they remembered what the Quran is saying, then they would have seen his Rahman that Allah has promised to the predecessor Ibrahim from the Ulil Albab. There's going to be mercy. أيها الناس إن الله قد أعظكم من أن يجور عليكم. Yes. Our minds will be controlled. Look at the way technology is controlling you and me. Today we trust technology so much. Look at our children, our youths. They haven't forgotten how to talk because they always need something. They don't know how to discuss issues. They don't know how to combat the injustices that are being plagued. They are plaguing the internets because they're not trained to stand there and what they watch, for example, is quite amazing. I have grandchildren, by the way, so I see them what they watch. And there is this game going on of shooting and killing. I don't know who they are, but that's what they can do from their stations. So you ask them, what did you get out of it? Yes, I think I can understand if you play with it for 1 hour. But you play for it 6 hours, and you're not even tired. But if I give you a book, you will just close it and put it away. You see the tragedy that technology has created for us. We can't even imagine. Imam Ali is saying that you will come to a time, سَيَكُونُ عَلَيْكُمْ زَمَانًا. There will come a time in the future when you will not have anything to stand on. Islam will be empty. Islam is supposed to teach me to challenge the wrongdoing. Islam is supposed to teach me to fight against injustices. Where am I? How can that be possible if I don't know what I'm supposed to do? And therefore, he says, there will be a time then those who are in power will try to overpower you, will try to give you those hard moments that you can't even imagine. In many sections of the history, you'll find that the visionaries in the community, they try to tell us that this is going to happen. This is what you will be seeing. And even now, we have been born by some of our leaders, including Imam Khomeini and others like him, who have told us what we should be looking for in the future. What is going to be a modern life? A modern life that is making us even more egotistic. We are more concerned about our own pleasures and our own comforts than anything else. There's nothing wrong to be concerned about your own, situation and, to work towards your own comforts. But there's a problem if you forget that you are not only living in the present, you are also living in the past, and you also have a future to work. What we've been talking about is the future of this whole mission of Karbala. What exactly is the future? And then I'm connecting something very important that I've not done thus far. A sacred act is connected with the sacred authority. Sacred remembrance, like the remembrance that we have for the Ashura, is connected with the spiritual dimension of our own existence. And therefore, we come here with the hope of reviving our spiritual thirst and our spiritual hunger, and to satisfy it. Satisfying it, we need those narratives. Today, we are going to open a very important chapter in the history of this. Is the chapter that deals with Abul Fazl Abbas. Abbas. Whenever the name of Abbas is mentioned, we all are wondering what he looked like, how much, spiritual and moral authority he had. All of these things come to mind running. Especially when we are told that he was so tall that he would ride the horse and his feet would dangle down and touch the ground. Must have been very tall. And they say he had strong, muscles, strong hands, extremely brave. He spent 14 years with his father. He was born in 26 Hijrah. 14 years he was with his father. Imam Ali brought him up in such a way. He was until 14. He took him to the wars. He took him to the battles, but told him, no, you are not participating. You're going to watch. So there was no sword given or anything given in his hand. No. You look at what your brothers are doing. What we call the training ground of Abul Fazl Abbas. 14 years. And when Karbala happens, he's exactly 34 years. So 20 years he spends with Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. And these are the ones who are going to have an impact on his character and the way he, conducted himself. Abul Fazl Abbas, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam says that among my uncles, Abbas was unique, both at the level of spirituality, at the level of religion, at the level of obedience to the Prophet and the Imams. They say Fatima Zahra called him my own son. Fatima was not there when he was born. But the miracle is mentioned that in Karbala there was this very pious man who used to go for the ziyarat of Imam Hussein. And he came one night, Thursday night back, and he got the dream. In the dream, Fatima Zahra asked him, why don't you go and visit my son? Maybe I go, I visit Imam Hussein. But no, my son Abbas. This was Fatima's, evaluation of Abbas's role. But Abbas is someone. He is my son. In other words, he has this connection with Imam Hussein that is very special. It's very special because of the two other issues connected with Abul Fazl Abbas. I'm now reading history. We are not at the stage of, I'm not going to pull you too much towards the philosophical discussions anymore, because we are almost towards the end of the Ashura, towards the end of the, 9th and 10th nights. Aqil, Imam Ali's brother, was a historian of genealogies. He knew the families in the Arab society. It was very important in the Arab society, If you wanted to get married to a girl, somebody had to do research and find out whose daughter, what are the connections, because there was strong belief in what we call genetic improvement. One of the types of the marriages known during the Prophet, before the Prophet's time, was that some Arabs would, seek their wives to go and, have conjugal relation with someone whose family has produced many riders, many brave men. In other words, there was this idea that you can improve your next generation by marrying into a very important family. This was known as nasab. Sharaf was different things and nasab was a different thing. Nasab was when you trace back your roots to someone great in the history. Aqil was knowledgeable about it. He knew all the nasab, in the society. And Imam Ali said, I want to get married. This is after Fatima al-Zahra. I want to get married in a family where there are brave young men. They are good riders. The belief in what we call eugenics, environmental ethics, improvement of the generation. And in the old days, that's what happened, by the way. When you sent a message to someone, they would do research on you to find out what exactly is the situation. How is your family? What are your roots, your ancestors? So that they can then decide on giving their daughter to you or taking your daughter for their son. It was known. It was also known in the Jewish culture because it's part of the Semitic anthropology. They did that. Aqil says to Imam Ali that I know a family. And they have a daughter by the name of Fatima bint Haram. We might think that haram is not a name. Haram in this sense, here in this usage, means sacred, holy. And Fatima bint Haram was well known. In the family that she was brought up, it was a good family. How little we pay attention in the modern days of the family. All the things have disappeared. In a way, it's an equality, which I don't mind. But it also prevents us from doing any kind of thinking that our parents used to do, our ancestors used to do. Nothing was easy to get married in those days. Now it is more easier, but things are quite different today. Imam Ali sent a message and got married to Fatima bint Haram. And Fatima gave birth to 4 sons: Abbas, Abdullah, Ja'far, Osman. And Abbas was under the direct supervision of Imam Ali, as all the children were. But Abbas was, he was being prepared for something. Abbas knew it, I hope. I'm not putting words in his mouth. And somehow he knew what was going to happen and what was going to unfold, because Imam Ali had already spoken on 21st of Ramadan before his death about what was going to happen. How Zainab would be treated by the community. How Hussein would be treated by the community. He knew it somehow. This is part of what we call ilm al-ghayb of the Imams alayhi salam. Imam Ali took all the necessary precautions to bring him up. When Imam Ali passed away, when he was killed, Abbas came under the direct, mentorship of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. See the way family nurtured those relationships. It's so important to do that. Brothers and sisters, we are living in a very, difficult time of individualism where people are not connected with one another. Families are not as close to one another as they should be. But it is a rahmah. It is a mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala how we come together to do things that are important for us to do. Abul Fazl Abbas saw the difficulty that Imam Hussain was faced with. Abul Fazl Abbas is a witness to what happened to Imam Hussain. How the situation was going to be, changed. And the negotiations with Muawiyah were going very tough, very difficult. Imam Hassan had already required in the peace treaty with Muawiyah that the next Khalifa after him should be Imam Hussain. He would be the leader of the community. But that was all forgotten, by the way. Muawiyah was known for his tricks and for his lies. This hero of nationalistic feelings is sometimes very difficult to assess. But it becomes quite clear that on the day of Ashura, these are all, connections going back to Ibn Ziyad and, Yazid and all of them, they are all part of that vision of their own authorities. Abul Fazl Abbas' cousin, maternal cousin, Mamigim Kisar Khaled, was also in Karbala in the opposite camp. And he came and he told Abul Fazl Abbas that I have this enmity for you and your brothers. If you can use it, he said, no, we don't want. There was very small exchange of views. And Abul Fazl Abbas said, no, thank you very much. No, we will stay with my brother, with the Imam here. After a while, Shimr came on the door and said, Assalamu alaikum ya abna'a ukhti. All the sons of my sister. Nobody answered. Look at what Imam Hussain is doing. Imam Hussain is talking to Abul Fazl Abbas. I can show you all the lines that he says. He says, Abbas, you must respond to him. He's your distant uncle. He's greeting you. Why don't you meet him? Why don't you ask him what he wants from you? Abbas was not going to meet this man. He had come with the letter of amnesty. And he kept on saying, where are the sons of my sister? Fatima bint Haram was not his sister, but that's what he claimed. And he came in, and Imam Hussain had already given the permission to Abul Fazl Abbas. Abul Fazl Abbas comes and engages him in conversation. What is your business now? So I'll go to this amnesty letter from the Khalifa, from the ruler. It's for you, four brothers. Abul Fazl Abbas was very careful in the choice of his words. La'anallahu amanak. May God curse your aman. I don't care for your letter of security and amnesty. I will not, we are not interested in, go away. He tried, his tricks and all. Abul Fazl Abbas, with his character, with his moral high ground that he was holding, he could not just say, okay, we come with you. I told you yesterday that it was very easy for the diplomacy to work if the other party was weak in their faith or weak in their commitment to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. But Imam Hussain alayhi salam was, again, as a teacher, look at the way the teaching he's doing. He's saying, whatever it is, he's your uncle. Say hello to him, whatever it is. He has greeted you. He doesn't say, ignore him, No, he doesn't do that. Look at the way Imam Hussain is teaching morality, principles, the manners that are necessary in the Iman. How many of us are able to do that? Whenever, especially when, if we are confronting our enemies, then we are the most ferocious. Abul Fazl Abbas is with Imam Hussein the whole day of Ashura. Now, what that I mean that he is with Imam Hussein with his, shuja, with his bravery, with his, ability. He is all the time with Imam Hussein, carrying out all the bodies from the battlefield back into, the khaymah, the tents that he had pitched for them. Just that. Finally, when the time comes now for Abul Fazl Abbas to say goodbye, he was the last one. And yet, the name also went the night. Honor Muhammad had already been killed. Qasim had already sacrificed his life. Now there was no one. And he comes in. He stands in front of his brother. Abbas was very, can you imagine this tall, handsome man, so brave, standing there with his hands folded on his chest? What is that indicating? I respect you. That's what it does. I respect you. And he stands in front of Imam Hussein and he tells Imam Hussein, I cannot bear it anymore. I can't bear this anymore. My chest is contracted with pain, with separation. Can you imagine Imam Hussein looking at his brother? I'm telling Abbas, it's very easy for you to say, my heart is bleeding, Imam Hussein. Is he not seeing the bleeding of Imam Hussein's heart? He's seeing everything. And he's very honest, I cannot take it anymore. There comes a time in your life, you make sacrifices after sacrifices. Now the time has come for you to say, now it's time for me to go. What does Imam Hussein do? Imam Hussein is very much worried about Abul Fazl Abbas' bravery and his daringness. Would he go quietly and fight them and come back? What is going to happen? Imam Hussein can visualize that Abbas is there and he will kill them all. They were so strong. And Abbas is standing there. Imam Hussein knows that he came 2-3 times already. He has come since last night and second of Muharram. He came and told me that we want to fight. We want to get rid of the enemy. There are few now and we can fight them. By the time Ashura came, Imam Hussein saw from the distance the number of soldiers that had come. Even if it's exaggerated to 80,000, 70,000, Ibn Khaldun says there were 30,000. Fine. But a lot. Here in Beit Imam Hussein, 120. Suhail ibn Fain was holding the alam on one side. Habib ibn Mazar on the other side. In the center, there was this river. It was an air of custom. That alam was so big, that flag was so big, it required a strong man to hold it. And Abbas was holding it. Imam Hussein had already planned that Abbas should not go to fight. In his mind, he's already saying Abbas is not going to fight. Otherwise, the battle will be different. The outcome will be different. And Abbas is, holding the other man standing. And then comes this time, everybody has been killed. Qasim has been killed. Nobody is there. Abbas looks around, and everywhere there are dead companions, members of the family. His three brothers has already been killed. Abdullah, 25 years old. Jafar, 19 years old. Uthman, 22 years old. All of them had already gone and fought the battle and been killed and been brought back. Their bodies were already dying there. Can you imagine the heart of the brother bleeding for the brother? Three brothers were already killed. And these are all the children of al-Banin. Al-Banin, the mother, Fatima bint Haram, is a special lady. Is the lady whose name, if you utter and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you, He will help you without any hesitation. Al-Banin has a station. She gave all these children. The whole family was gone, so to speak. All the four. Now the fourth son is about to go. And was a Imam Hussain saying, Abbas, I want to look for water. I wanted to look for water, Abbas. The children are thirsty. Go and search for water. What he did, he tied Abbas's feet from battle to become the Saqqah of the Haram, the one who will bring water. Abbas was moving. And he comes right to Sachedina. Sachedina, give me your water bag again. Give me that water bag. I'll go and fetch water for you children. There were children there, 52 children, my brothers and sisters, 52 children in Karbala. Can you imagine what the situation is in the Haram today, in the tent of Imam Hussain alayhi salam? The tent of Imam Hussain has been properly prepared. Imam Hussain had gone on the Ashura night to check out the safety of the tents. He was very, very careful. A strategist. He said, no, I will not leave them to chance. He told Abbas and all others, said, please collect the wood, and we should, dig a ditch around the khayma so that there will be fire in it tomorrow. Or will not let anybody come closer to the tent. He was worried about the women. He was worried about the children who were in the tent. You can see this Imam. This is Imam Ra'uf. This is the kind Imam that we are looking at. And Abul Fazl Abbas goes to get the water, and he dies. But before I come to that, why is this today that you and I sit and remember Abul Fazl Abbas? Because he's already gone to bring water once. That was last night. He went last night with 20 soldiers on foot and 30 soldiers on the horse. You can see the big group on the 8th night of Muharram. They are going right to the river, and they put their horses in the river and want to fill them with water, with the water skins with water. And at that time, the man in charge is saying, who is it? And this, Sahaba of Imam, Al-Jamali is saying that we are here. And we are going to drink water. So, yeah, of course you can drink water. You are our brothers. Come drink water. But no, we'll not drink water without taking it for Imam Hussain. We will not drink water alone. We will drink together with Imam and all the children. Said, no, that's not allowed. Can you imagine? These are Muslims. We are talking about Muslims. How can you deny water? This is the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How can they deny the water? Abul Fazl Abbas is quite aware of it. They did bring the water, by the way. They pushed them away. There were 20 bags of water bags in the khayma on that night, 8th night. But after that, there was no water. and everybody was thirsty. And here Abul Fazl Abbas comes and says, we need to get the water. He comes, and this is exactly what the riwayah says, that he came, he put his horse into the water, and he put the water skin and filled it up. Filled it up. And he took the water in his hand and wanted to drink it, and he threw it away. People have speculated, why did he throw it away? I think there is a poem also that says that he remembered Imam Hussein's thirst. He said, I'm not going to drink this water until he drinks. And he came out. Now I want you to imagine the alam is in his hand. That heavy alam is there, by the way. On one side, on the right side, is the mash, what we call the water bag. Here is the alam, and then there is a sword, and there is also a lens with which he's defending his own position. And he goes on. But as you all know, that his right hand was cut, his left hand was cut, and then they hit him on the head, and his eye was hurt, and he fell down. When he fell down, he called upon Imam Hussein, Adrikni ya Ba'atillah, help me out, oh Ba'atillah. And Imam Hussein came immediately in the battlefield and was looking for Abbas. He didn't know that it was so far. And he saw the hand, first the right hand, then the left hand, and then he comes closer and he finds Abbas is on the ground, on the bank of river. And he comes and sits down Abbas, and he finds that Abbas is hurt. There was an arrow in the right ear and right eye, and he was not able to see. The left eye was already filled with blood. And Imam Hussein is saying, can you imagine a brother seeing his very dear brother in that condition? But that's what Imam Hussein was. He saw our President Abbas, he could not take it. He cried. And he said, this community, may Allah take their account. God will not leave them. And Abbas had already indicated, Mawla, don't take to the tent, because he knew everybody was going back to the tent. No, don't bother to do that. And it was in the hands of Imam that Abul Fazl Abbas saw, poverty. And Imam got up and he took the alam from the ground and started moving toward the tent. You know who was standing near the tent? All the children were standing near the tent. They were all very hopeful. The uncle will bring the water for us. And they came, looking for, they were waiting there on the Darahima, and they were, but they saw, they could not believe. Sachedina especially was very much attached to uncle. And she came forward and said, Baba, it's you. Where is my uncle? Where is my uncle, Baba? Because that was the time when Sachedina is, cannot believe that uncle came. His alam came and uncle did not come. Imam Hussein said, Baba, your uncle is on the bank of Euphrates, and I have come and brought this alam to you. It was this kind of situation whereby the women in the haram, all of a sudden they realized that their force, their soldier and commander had been killed. It's time to pray. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All together. Today, Al-Banin is going to say Amin to our dua. Inshallah. Amman yujibul mustarra wa yakshifu أمن يجيب المضطر ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر ويكشف السوء ولا تجهر أمن يجيب المضطر ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر ويكشف السوء اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم يا Allah. In the name of Al-Banin and her children who were all sacrificed in your path, Ya Allah, fi sabilik, Ya Allah. Bless this community and the communities all around the world. Ya Allah, those who are ill, those who are sick, Ya Allah, we are not even saying that only Muslims. We are saying all of them who are sick, Ya Allah, give them the cure and the release from all the pain and suffering, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, there are so many who have asked us to pray for them, Ya Allah. I'm not mentioning any names, but I do say, Ya Allah, in their names, I'm asking you, I'm beseeching you, Ya Allah, that you listen to us, you give us what the felicity you can give us. Ya Allah, bless this community, bless everyone who is here, and Ya Allah, make us the true followers of Abbas ibn Ali Abu Bakr.